That was a setup. Let's get it.
All right, this is Coach Schumann here for the Success for Life podcast. As we always do, we bring in the best of the best, and we want to know how they did it and what they learned. And today I have a guy that I discovered on TikTok. I mean, I'm pretty active on TikTok. I have a pretty big following on there, about 200, and I think it's like 15 or 20,000 followers. Pretty active, and we do mostly football content. And then I came across Coach Billy Wood's content just as I was scrolling and looking at stuff. And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, "Who's this guy criticizing all these different athletes and their movements?" And then the more I watched it, I really became intrigued, and I investigated. And we'll talk about the system that's part of his training method. But before we do that, I want to introduce Coach Billy Wood, one of the guys who's really uh, he's not the founding father of it, but he's really endorsed and applies the training method of GOATA training. Billy, tell us a little bit about your background and where you came from and how you kind of got into this.
Okay, so I have been a performance coach for high-level athletes and CEOs for 16 years. And I've studied with the National Academy of Sports Medicine, Exos. I recently got to review a certification for ISSA. So I've been around the block. I was fortunate enough to be able to start my career in a high-level performance gym called Pro Edge Performance Training in Chandler, Arizona. There we specialized in getting football players ready for their pro days, really athletes in general, but like our main market was football because the owner, Derek Kennard Jr.
Oh, yes, I know Derek.
Yeah, well, so Derek, so there's a Devon Kennard that plays for the Cardinals.
Right, this is his.
You know Derek? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Hogs and Dogs, baby, D-line.
I think he had kids. This kids that he trained come to my camps, and I mean, we're going back years. Came to our programs before I think he even launched that facility. But he does a lot of like D lineman, right? And
yeah, dude, hold on one sec. I don't know that got weird on me on live, and so I just aborted.
All good.
Okay. Derek Kennard, in my opinion, Derek Kennard Jr. is the man to see when it comes to defensive line. Yes, he does a lot of it.
Cool. So go ahead. Yeah.
So being there, he played for the Colts for a little bit. He played for the Wolfpack in Nevada, and he had a lot of cool friends that went on. Nate Burleson, Bobby Wade, Lance Briggs, Tank Johnson, to name a few. So, I mean, I got to learn with on these guys, and getting them ready, and they brought it up. So in my road to performance, in my road to training in performance, I just started noticing a lot of commonalities between just high level people in that they train their mind, body, and soul to perform the best at their job to ultimately provide for their family. That's where I created my brand. I conceived it as a lifestyle athlete, because that if we all applied that method to our life, how much better could we be if we took that same approach? It's no different. Their job is running and catching as a football player. Some jobs is sales, right? But it all rides on how well your mind and body communicate. That's what's gonna ultimately come through. So in that, I've had a gym, I've closed a gym, written blogs, and it all was great, but it all seemed conflicting to me, because just when you think you got the hang of one thing, it's like, oh, well, there's this new science that says that, maybe that you should be pushing off your big toe, or that the inside of the edge of the foot is good. And what it came down to was, at some point, it's nitpicking, because just because a muscle has a capability and it can do something doesn't mean it should. I mean, we have capabilities to do anything we want. Doesn't mean we should do everything, right? And as I was getting older, I was experiencing aches and pains. And one time I was playing with one of my sons, Jackson. So I have 4 kids. I have 2 biological sons, and then I have 2 heart kids. They're Weston and Kinley. So one girl, she's like in a wolf pack. And I love being a dad, and I love providing, and I love playing. And I was throwing Jackson, my son Jackson, in the pool, and I had to stop because my shoulder was hurt, my elbow was hurt, and I was doing performance training like an athlete.
Right.
And it didn't sit right. So I go, okay, strip it all away. What matters? Movement quality matters. So I started searching for a movement philosophy. There's like WEC method, functional patterns. I looked at all this stuff. One of my old baseball players, he played for the Padres and the Dodgers. His name's Kyle Goodell. He's an awesome GOATA coach. He was a GOATA coach. And I started seeing his Instagram kind of in the same way that you saw my TikTok, where I was like, okay, Kyle, well, maybe, kind of. And then I was like, no, I can't unsee it now. So then I hit him up, talked to him, got enrolled, learned it, and here we are today. So that's my intro into how I found GOATA. And since then, I've been pain-free. I don't have the sciatic nerve anymore. I don't have the issues with my shoulder, and I'm able to move weight, and that's the key. I'm able to move weight. I stopped really emphasizing lifting weight.
Right. And explain to people. So explain exactly what GOATA is. Greatest of all time athletes, right? There was a method yep. And you could chime in if
absolutely.
They studied some of the greatest of all time athletes, people like Michael Jordan, Usain Bolt, and how they moved, how they ran, how they jumped, and how their body was aligned where they do things. And they kind of like reverse engineered to try to mirror those movements, right? From an injury prevention standpoint, from a strength and development standpoint. Tell am I on the right track as to what?
On the right track. So the there's a book about it on Amazon. If you want, anyone can read about it. But the nutshell version is you had like 4 pissed off healers and performance coaches. You had a former NFL athlete in Ricky Stanzi. You had a current and amazing performance coach in Gary Scheffler. And then you have the man, Gilly Bosch. That's the guy that found the patterns. Okay. Then you have Cody Wood, who was an occupational therapist, and they just were tired of being in a broken system. They realized being in the system, because Gil's back has been trashed since he was in his 20s. They said he was going to have all kinds of surgeries. Man, reach out to him and get him on your podcast to tell his story. It's amazing. So I'm just going to nutshell it. But
right,
basically, they said he needed surgery. He was never going to have a life. He lost his entire 20s. He found a guy that was movement focused, close to GOATA, but was still kind of missing it a bit. That helped him tremendously. Then when he started studying the film and the way that indigenous people walk and babies, because that's really where it started, he started noticing a pattern in movement. In that same pattern shows up in the way that anything that is naturally made, nature made, grows. Babies come out of a fetal position. Flowers, grass, everything spirals. That just spiraled through my nostril. The blood is spiraling through our veins. It's the Fibonacci sequence in ancient geometry, if we're going to progress down, that he really found like, oh, okay, we progress in a spiral through life. In that movement, we progress. So if you watch all these things move, they have a pattern. And then he saw that in athletes. And it just so happened that those athletes were some of the greatest of all time with the longest careers and less injuries. So GOATA stands for greatest of all time action for the greatest of all time athlete. So when I saw it, that fit my brand. because I'm also a nutrition coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and I'm very holistic. I think food fixes a lot. I think we jump to substance too much as a society. So GOATA fit it, but that's what GOATA, that's how it was made. So Gil found the movement, then was like, boom, okay, it's in nature, it's in babies, it's in indigenous people and people that aren't really touched by modern day conveniences, and now it's showing up here. We got something. So he just spread the fire to Gary, and then Cody, and then Ricky got in, and then they built this curriculum. And it's an amazing curriculum where you get to go to Louisiana, you get to go into the GLS Performance Center that Gary and Gil built. And it's an amazing experience. I lost you.
Tell me about the principles of the training. I muted myself there for a second. Tell me about the principles of the training and the things that are utilized in the training that make the difference in the athlete performing better. Explain that part, because a lot of people who might be listening, like I spoke to a couple of my friends who have very high performing high school athletes, and probably going to be Division I athletes. And I started explaining, investigate this because it's something you may be interested in learning more about with your own children, right?
Absolutely.
And they were obviously immediately intrigued. Both of them had come from originally from the strength and conditioning space, and obviously hadn't heard about it. So explain some of the principles of that training and how do you apply in your development of athletes and any of the people you train, even adults, who might be weekend warriors, right?
Absolutely. And well, let me start this off by saying, because I train a wide range of people. So I have 3 entities to my business. One is corporate wellness, where me and one of my partners, we go into businesses, evaluate how they work, perform movement assessments, and then offer ways that they can make it more ergonomically friendly our way, because normal ergonomics, the way that it's sold, is there. So in that respect, I see a lot of what you call weekend warriors, right? The other one is athletic performance, my online gym, if you will, that I have with another GOATA coach named Natalie Waddell, who is a boss when it comes to performance. And she'll take NFL athletes, but she's a volleyball stud. And so the third is just partnering with cool brands that are along the line of ergonomics. The way that I utilize it in all of it are the GOATA principles of your body's natural suppleness, inside ankle bone high, back chain dominant movement. And then what I'm sure on Instagram, and when you went down your wormhole, you'll see a lot of bow corner. Okay. That's just landing and leaving. That's how you absorb energy, and that's how it releases. It bows into the integrity of the fascial lining, and then it turns the corner. So that's segueing into how it helps an athlete. So when I use an athlete I'm going to get up and show you something. So the way that it utilizes an athlete is when you utilize the right movement math, you're able to load in a way that promotes optimal and efficient. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So you're able to load in a way that promotes optimal and efficient power and fluidity. Fluidity is the key point, because a lot of people think speed is not rigid. There's a controlled, almost like harmonious chaos in that sprint. When you're watching Usain Bolt run, it's that foo, foo, foo. It's that very, very fluid. Sorry, I had 3 thoughts in my head. It's that very fluid singularity. It's everything's moving in singularity, and it's able to whip. Think of a whip. So that's how we're moving through time and space. So to an athlete, when I can get them to master the position that of forward locomotion, that heel off the ground, inside ankle bone high, that back chain dominance, and getting them to feel that the energy is just moving around the corner constantly, they fly off that line. Like a receiver, one of my favorite receiver drills, it's not a secret. It's simply just mastering the first step with that hip. This is so much more powerful. This hip position is so much more powerful than this hip position. Here's my belt buckles forward. If a DB gets underneath my pads, I'm done. If I'm back here, I got a fighting chance now, right? Now I'm here, right? I'm able to hand fight. I'm able to explode off my hip. I can get skinny. I can do anything I want from this position. Way more fluid and way more powerful. When I'm here, if it's man coverage and I'm here, it doesn't even matter if my hands are here. What's the first thing it's going to have to do if he comes to press me? I'm going to have to drop my hips back. So in modern day training, we emphasize thrusting, squat, thrust, hip thrust, everything's thrust, everything's straight line. We don't move in straight lines. We move in spirals. So we lost abilities in our joint capsules that allow us to move in that explosive fluidity. So GOATA helps bring back the body's natural suppleness, and then it helps pattern the right locomotive fundamentals into your central nervous system. Because at the end of the day, you build muscle with weights, but the motions are patterned into your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is just it's a printer. Like you just print on it, and whatever's printed goes. So if I'm sitting in a chair in class here all day, right? Call it 4 hours. I'm in a bad position. I go and I play Xbox with my friends. I'm sitting down in a bad position. My hips are forward. I'm leaning against counters. I'm doing this. Then guess what, coach? It's time to go to training. So now you know what I'm going to be doing more of? Bad positions. And when I get wide with these columns, the structure collapses. Right? You're pushing in. And
that's mind-blowing because it is contrary. And you know what started me on this? Are you familiar with knees over toes guy?
Yeah, he's almost there.
Yeah.
He's almost there.
Right. So I kind of saw some of his things. And my knee was, I had to get like, what do you call it? The gel stuff put in, the shots or whatever, helped my knee a little bit, but it didn't do what I thought it would do. So I started applying some of the knees over toes guy things, and it was helping. Right. And then obviously as I saw your stuff and I'm like, okay, like this is like the next step, right? Almost the next step for athletes to really go to. But what blew me away and really started me, like, we were always taught, and you were a football player, you know this. You want to keep your butt back when you squat. You don't want your knees to go in front. You want to be on your heels.
Drive through the heel, yep.
Which is exactly the opposite of how you sprint. I mean, you obviously
shoot your hips,
right? So you were over and over again practicing the wrong way to put your body in position, which ultimately, I guess, could lead to all these other things. So one of the things I saw you point out, which was just fantastic, I think you pointed out Odell Beckham's knee injury and how his leg was out of position and his ankle was low. Knee was out of position instead of having that bow, right? And this, you're talking about one of the most explosive athletes in the world, right?
Amazing athlete.
Then Mechie from Alabama, his training method, and this, I've always thought this because I work with high school kids in football, and I see them come off the line, and it always drove me crazy that these guys would do the duck walk with the knees out. You know what I'm saying? And
Reverse.
the knees are coming in, the leg is out, right? And I said, geez, that can't be good. What if they misplant? What if someone rolls on them? What if they get jammed and they get their foot stuck, right? They blow out their knee. They haven't done anything yet. So guys are actually training them on that instead of teaching the duck walk so their feet are in the right position so they can plant properly and don't put themselves in an injury position. They're actually teaching an actual foot in a bad position and the knees in the bad position, the ankles in the bad position. And it was always in my head, like, is this right? But so many people were doing it. So as a coach, you start to say, like, am I thinking improperly? Or are they thinking improperly? Or they've just passed it down over the years to each other incorrectly, right? What do you say about that?
Well, okay. In parts, I say that over the years, it's just an evolution of modern day conveniences. We rest in chairs, we sleep in nice, comfortable mattresses. Indigenous people don't have that, and our old ancestors didn't have that. They rested on the ground. They rested in the seiza position, right? Their hips were always behind their glutes, even in resting. Rarely ever were they ever in reverse gear, which is what you were referring to with duck feet and knees out. That's reverse movement. And so the other part of it would be the way that we know range of motion, like dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, eversion, all this stuff. It was made by Rick Stanzi, said it best on the Mike Bell podcast. I think it was one of them. He said it somewhere.
I watched that. Yes.
It was okay. So it was made like there's a dead person on the ground on the table, and I have scientists that are manipulating perceived range of motions, and they're measuring, and they're calling this is flexion, this is extension, this is how this was made. Now, you probably need that stuff if you shatter something, car accident or anything like that. It's useful to know, right? But that doesn't take into account the live human energy. Like, it doesn't happen that way. So defensive linemen, I talk to Derek about this all the time, and he agrees with me, is the cue, hips, shoot your hips, right? And then when he's looking at me one time, he was like, dude, he's like, I don't know why we necessarily say this. Nobody ever shoots their hips. Like, they're always looking like they're pushing a sled.
Right.
So why are we telling them to shoot their hips forward? It's taking them backwards. Now, are there times you might need to shoot your hips and get skinny when you're going through traffic? Maybe. But you know what happens when you do that? The patterns in your central nervous system. So that's what's going to govern the movement. But so modern day conveniences and just the wrong map with how this whole thing got started. So there's a lot of radicals really on both sides. I'll be big enough to say both sides, but it's like the people that are like, science, read my stuff. Where's your studies? Like, yo, we've only been around 10 years. If that, they've only been around 10 years, right? There's only 230 GOATA coaches. Like, give the science time, but in the meantime, you know it's a broken system. Why are we holding that? And why are you guys putting that's wrong into what we're doing? I need people to come together and just see this, like, understand this is what's happening, and what you're patterning when you're putting Olympic lifting and locomotive athletes. That's what their brain's going to do when the pressure builds. It's like, oh, I've been here before. And then what happens then is the other criticism is, oh, well, you're saying that I went ankle bone low, like I'm going to tear something. Not necessarily. Catastrophics can happen at once catastrophically or over time, like death by 1,000 cuts. You're blowing your wheels out, and you don't need to, because the Hadza tribe members there's cats that run well into their 80s every day, never need a joint replacement because they run in singularity, which preserves the connective tissue.
And the big issue is that when they start to move and they're training themselves properly, they slam that heel, like for changing direction, for example, they slam the heel down, right? And the force is the force that's generated through the body. The joints can't handle it, right? So even if the muscle is strong enough to handle it, the joints and the tendons, that's what implodes, right?
And that's exactly what you just said is why we're the modern day training in GOATA butt heads, because exactly that. You're going to, yeah, again, it goes back to the central nervous system drive. It's like you're going to pattern this drive into their central nervous system. So when they're on the field, yeah, as soon as I hit here, I'm going to send a disrupted pressure wave that is now going the wrong way, right? And there's no integrity in the connective tissue, or there's no integrity in the movement at that point. It's all disrupted. So what you're going to get is a blowout, Achilles or ACL. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. And then, so then the next question is, what should they? And I pulled quickly some YouTube stuff. I'll look at. Maybe you could explain, because I think this is one of those things that, I guess when people figured out the squat builded power, right, initially, like that was revolutionary at the time. This is now revolutionary, where you can train and build that same power, but not put yourself in a bad position.
Not crash your connective tissue. Yeah,
exactly. You blow your. I mean, I think how many times, and you probably just squatted and you over and over again. You're like, you always say like, you were always worried about putting on too much weight. Not that you couldn't squat the weight, right? You could squat the actual weight, but that your back wouldn't survive the process of squatting.
Yeah. and they say this, they go, oh, well, it does work, but it's like you're making a muscle strong, and at the same time, you're sending the wrong movement pattern into your central nervous system. What's more important in a locomotive athlete? That's just what it comes down to.
Right.
It's like, it's not a matter of, do squats make a powerful athlete? 100% yes. But at the risk of what? Now we're gambling each step. And so even if you could squat less by 20%, but you can move weight fluidly, your performance isn't going to, it's going to increase the same amount, if not more. It's not going to decrease.
What would some of the movements, at least from a strength and conditioning standpoint, what would some of the movements that you recommend people starting to do? Like if they came and saw you, right? And I'm a football player, or I'm any kind of explosive athlete, even a weekend warrior, right? I got to be able to play pickleball effectively. What would you recommend? How would you start them to train so they could build that strength and athleticism without getting themselves in bad positions?
So this is why GOATA is so great, is there's no half measure. So like that's a general question. Right. So the way that I'll answer that is by saying the way it starts typically, unless you just want to blindly buy a GOATA program, which is fine, is it starts with a movement recode from a GOATA coach, where they highlight your movement errors and they understand, okay, we need to fix this first, because at the end of the day, it's all going to start at the feet, where gravity, your body touches gravity. That space suit that takes your soul through time and space touches gravity. That's where dysfunction starts and ends. So most GOATA assessments are over at the feet because people wear the wrong shoes. So when we walk, we need that natural toe splay, which is probably, I mean, I'm not going to throw a percentage out because I'm going to get nailed, but there's a high percentage of back pain that would be cured just by bringing control back to your toes. And there are new shoe companies that are starting to promote barefoot shoes like Flux. They look like this. Flux footwear, like it splays. And it's a technology that it's like a splay technology. So when you take a step and all that energy absorbs onto that foot. Like if I'm running, there's a point where all this leg has all the energy on it. My foot widens up to about 20%. It should. But you get a speed TD, your feet are in here, right? So it's almost makes it harder to keep that bow because now the support of your pinky toe's there. So it almost forces you to roll. So it's like, I either say like you either splay all day or you collapse like your Aunt May. You know what I'm saying? You know, but the company Flux, like they offer that splay technology. So when you take that step, and I think athletes should train in this because when I started this, I had no, in these two toes, zero control. I couldn't separate them. And once I gained some toe control, it brought a whole new level of foot control. All of a sudden, like I'm able to feel my outside edge better and stuff like that. So it starts at the feet, but I know I get long-winded here, but it starts with a movement assessment.
Great.
It starts with a movement assessment, and then from there we highlight. So in your general question, I'll just say what pretty common is your ankle bone goes low and your front chain dominant. So for that is the majority of the people. What I would do is I would say, okay, we're going to be in resting positions like the Seiza position, where we go big toes together, inside ankle bone high, glutes behind the ribs, chin tucked. And I want an athlete to be able to own that position. So I slow them down a lot at the beginning. They rest in that position. Then rockers. Then we go up and down from there. Then as that progresses, we get to the squat where it's more forward locomoting promoted. That's it. So in column, narrow stance versus a wide base. You never run like this ever, 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 right? Narrow stance, heels up off the ground because we shouldn't heel drive. And then we want that landing. We want the knees to go out. And then as we leave, we want to corner it so that I go forward. So basically I change them. I go, I need you in your brain to understand that when you absorb pressure, this has to stay here and these have to stay high, right? You see the difference in squats between this and this?
Yep.
What, like I'm going backwards. Here, if I fall, I'm going forwards. Right?
Yep.
And a lot of what, go ahead.
No, that's it's incredible. As far as so when they now so should shoes, and this is my question I thought of when I was hearing all this. Are the shoes that football players, track athletes, right? They want to have tighter. They always have tight shoes, right, at the top, right? Same with football, right? Should the shoes at the top of the shoe actually be different so they can splay, so they have more room? Yes, is what you're saying. Yes,
100%. I mean, this is just a great example of what's the better way to put it? This is how it changed, is because the science. Let's look at the science, but nobody's willing to see what manipulated the science. That happened because the shoe, they scientifically designed a shoe to be speedier. What's speedier? Lighter. I remember when I was playing, how old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
48.
Live on the air. Okay, I'm 38. So
Okay.
like same era. Remember there was a big time around the first time the Speed TD came out. Everyone's like 12 ounces, and then it started getting lesser and less. If you notice, non-contact start going up and up, but that's not in the science because they're focused on what does the foot do? Oh, well, what does the ankle do? I don't care. What does it do in relation to the chest when that fool's running? That's what I need to know. I don't care what it can do while I'm laying on a table. That's great. That is awesome. That's not that I need your brain to come over here and see these patterns. That's what I need in those people. But yes, so shoes followed the science, and then the foot got deformed, right? I do believe that we will see that shift very, very soon, because it turns out that's not what drives speed. Fundamentals drive speed. Proper form drives speed. It's not, what is a couple ounces going to make you slower? Like, come on.
Yes. Well, I
That's
want
excellent marketing. I mean,
oh,
hats off.
well, I want to so I want to pull up like Usain in slow motion here, and
Yeah.
hopefully, let's see if I can share this right. That's always half the battle here. All right, let's see. Share window. Okay. Let's see. All right, can you see that on the screen?
Yes, if you could give me a front view or a back view, it'd be better, but I can do my best from here.
Yeah, let me see what I can do here.
Like, can you screen record this and then play it from your phone so you could zoom in? Or can you like zoom in on his foot?
I zoom in. Yeah, I think I can zoom in. Hold on.
Well, just already in this position, look at the foot that's out in front. He's about to land on.
Right.
Okay. This is sick. I love this stuff. Okay. Either way, that one. So back it up to the front. Back it up. I want you to pause it just where you got it before. Oh, it was so perfect before. Right there. Right there. Okay. So just look right there. You already start to see a side bend into that pressure side where he's about to absorb all that pressure. You see he's about to dig in. See that arm back?
Right. So that's his foot like leading towards that side, right?
Correct. Now with track athletes, what we see, because this is all dictated by film study, live film study, or slow-mo, high-def film study. So they're per sport, this is where it would differ. We allow more externally rotated foot with track athletes versus like an interval athlete, like a football, because there's nobody diving at their feet. And what they do is they use that as extra leverage to spin, to corner that heel. But their heel's never on the ground. If their heel hit the ground and their foot landed out like that and they tried to do that, it would be catastrophic. However, Usain, most of them don't they stay toe straight for the most part. You might see it a little bit, but going back to that point, you see right there, go back to this foot strike. Right where it touches back. You could do this next step. Pop. Can you go like one pixel, one frame further? One more. I need a front view to explain this point. Okay, right there. Okay, so you can notice his heel is off the ground. He's on that outside blade, right?
Yep.
And just to give you a visual, people are claiming this is the strong side of your foot. What looks stronger? You know? I mean, there's more bone. Like, take a top view of the foot. You're going to see the outside edge is stronger. So here now what you see is...
And by the way, I don't want to interrupt you too much, but that is contrary to how they used to teach speed. They would talk about the big, the big toe where the biggest part of that bone is.
That's the lever.
Right. That's what people used to say was the way that you push off, but that's not true. It's more towards the outer part, right?
Yeah, your big toe is more or less your balance mechanism.
Got it.
Force, it transfers it. What people used to think the core was in which I guess it still is. It's not it's a transfer of force. It's not a detonator. So like I can detonate with my bicep, I can detonate with my lats, I can detonate with my chest, or I pull. But your core, you don't detonate. Like it transfers force. So it helps move the energy, right? But a lot of people train their core like it's like a power muscle. It's not. But that ultimately is what we're talking about here. It's more of a transfer than it is like a force thing. But in this picture, what you're seeing is he's about to release all the energy, but I want you to notice that his hip is over his knee and his knee is over his ankle, and that shoulder is over all of it all as well. And he's right in singularity. And what you would also notice is if you could zoom in on that kneecap, both kneecaps, it's going to be kind of pixelated, but they're both point. You see his knee that he's about to stride through with is now trending towards us. If we could go back like one frame, like in like an on-form app, what you would see is those knees face each other at one moment, and they will face each other again. Right there. So right there, he's going to corner, and then his kneecap is going to be facing the other kneecap. That spine is going to be faced out towards the kneecap. His right or his left shoulder is going to be back, just like that, hips back, and he's about to land. And he's going to take that energy and he's going to bring it right through. Go for it. Zoom. Now look, don't go back. That was a perfect view. No, there. One more back. The energies, and now it's on the other side. Keep going, keep right there. So now look at all of that is now on the other side. Look at his hip. Look at his shoulder. Look at his knee. Look at his foot. It's trending down towards the outside edge. Look at that arm. That arm is digging in. He's side bending. Boom, 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 boom.
And I noticed that most of the sprinters now are more following his method, right? That exact method.
Now look at homeboy next to him, though. Look at the dude in the headband. Where's his foot about to hit? Lifter.
Right. Yep.
That dude has back pain. I promise.
Yep. The Jamaicans seem to have a lot more.
Oh my God! Action. Look at the dude in the teal brace. Look at where his foot is, and then look at his kneecap. His knee's in and his foot's towards us. No wonder he's got a knee brace on that knee. Weird.
That is weird.
Isn't that weird? But I'll tell you who's got a great form is this dude in the white and black. Also has awesome form. He's got a great side bend there. He's about to whip that thing through.
I think he was the last. I think he was the 200-meter Olympic champion. This guy on the outside.
Shocker.
This past Olympics. Yep. So it's interesting to see that. You know, I think he may have placed as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. His head's in column. Heads over their foot. Him and Hussein. Yep. Heads over the landing column and just glides.
And then I have. You know, I want this. I mean, it's so fascinating. I mean, obviously, and then when you see it in fast motion, the rocket back and forth, you see it.
Yeah, see, that's all it is, man. It's they're moving energy 45 degrees on each side, and it stops at 22.5, and that head glides. If you could get a front view, you would see it even more. Same with back view.
Yeah, I bet you I can.
But what we're doing here is the GOATA assessment. Only
right.
It's more clear. We have tools that we use to mark it up. We open up a file. It's yours forever. And then, I mean, if you do it right, you do one at least every 3 months, if not every month, if you're doing the work.
And then,
but look, what you don't use, you lose.
Right.
So movement, like you're always going to go back to the way you rest. The way you rest shapes the way that your body postures, and it shapes the way. Oh, let's see this.
So Cooper Kupp, and I don't know if I pulled the right clip because I should have just had this ready to go. But I was watching Cooper Kupp, and he changes direction vastly different than Odell Beckham. Okay,
you're doing the work. I love it.
So it's interesting because they're both. I think Odell is in a flat sprint is faster, but Cooper's pretty close. But his movement, I think, is what allows him to catch so many balls and the wear and tear that would encompass of all the change of direction he does. Much more so than obviously his teammate, who is also one of the best athletes in the world. But his movement Like he needs to spend, and he is a Louisiana guy, so he probably should be
Same
spending
with
time.
Jamar Chase has pretty good movement too. He's actually been to the GLS facility.
Oh, he has.
Triple Crown win.
So like I was.
Oh, go back. That was
Yeah.
sick. Go right back. Watch this bow.
Try and do.
Dang, I get excited when I see a good bow. Okay. He's about to, they're right there already. Look, and land.
Let me get it back.
You go to the setup. So go to that right there. Look at where his knee is and look at where his ankle is. Look at where his spine is. Look at where his shoulder is. Look at where his hip is. That's dropped back, right? Almost like what you saw Usain Bolt doing, only
Right.
He's got a guy right there, and he's on the outside edge, and that heel is not on the ground. I don't care what anybody says. It's not. As slowly as you can, go progress this. This is beautiful. So you'll.
Oh, whoa.
That was a.
I know. I guess he's moving too fast.
Yeah. Holy cow! Right there. Look. Okay. The pressure. He's in the middle right now. So this is like a fractal right here. The pressure is gonna set on this back foot. God, heel released away. Okay. Pressure's on the back foot. It looks like his knee's out, but look at his ankle bone's high. It's not collapsed. His arch is there on this back foot.
Let me see if I'm trying to get this.
Is there a way you could play it in just super slow motion? Like slow it down?
Let me see.
See the arch of that
This
foot.
isn't
Oh,
slow
like
mo.
that.
This isn't slow mo. So yeah, good. All right. Just
Okay.
tell me when it's stop.
Right there. But stop. Okay. Okay, his leaving foot. You see how the heel's away towards us?
Yep.
Okay, rewind that to like a half a second. I wish I had my on form app and we could just click through this.
I know. I should have.
There's not like a setting you can click in the gears that'll
Yeah, I
slow
don't
it down like
know.
4 times.
I thought maybe there was.
Because this is an amazing setup and transfer of energy. So I'll just explain what you're going to see while
Yeah,
you're
let me see if I
with
can.
that. Is
Playback speed.
you're going to see him loading
Let me go back slow, super slow here. Okay.
loading that left column. Yep. You're going to see him load the left column. Then you're going to see him shift the energy to the right column. And then you're going to see him release the energy up into the air. Okay, look, bow. And then he's going to he's going to get to the energy into the right column. Ankle bones high, the structure there. Now he's up. He's about to release his heels off the ground. That stuff is going to come towards us. I almost cussed. See that? It doesn't get much better than that.
And his landing is so good too.
And
Like
look at that ankle bone. Yeah, stop right there. Don't move it. Oh, coach.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Oh, there's him cheering. All right, let me see if I get this.
If you could go back to that landing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to it.
Yeah. So when he lands, his left foot is landing ankle bone high. Well, his right foot is landing heel up, outside edge. He's going to get to the outside edge when the momentum goes. Outside edge. Now when he lands, both ankle bones are high. One saves. It looks like he's rolling. He's not rolling that. Keep going. Now his arch was built on this extended leg side, and then go down. It releases in the air. That looks like ankle bone low, but there's no pressure on the column.
Well, I think what's so interesting is how
it's like, dude, it's like ballet.
It's amazing. So he actually lands so properly, and then because he's used to doing it that way, before his body gets out of position, he goes to the ground instead of trying to fight it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And look, now imagine he flattened his arches on that landing leg,
right,
and that knee caved in. It's one of those things where you're now gambling. Would that have caused a non-contact? I can't tell you 100% yes, but I can tell you that could have, but I can tell you that for sure trashed part of some connective tissue.
And his position right here on the right foot and knee is in perfect position, right?
Yep. See how the arch is still high? His heel's off the ground. There's still a little pressure in there. When it goes low, it's in what we call the open chain. There's no pressure on it. So it doesn't matter what it does. That's when like the cadaver science can have its day. Like open chain, look what my foot can do.
It's amazing how it's exactly the same. And Usain Bolt, who was sprinting straight, was doing the exact same thing. I
You
mean,
see it, Michael Jordan. Tom
yep.
Brady.
Tom Brady when he's dropping and stuff.
Tom Brady when he's throwing. Oh, dude, you see his shoulder follow through inside wrist bone high. You got to look at it this way: your arm is your leg, basically. Your elbow is your knee, your wrist is your ankle, and your shoulder's your hip. We're all built with the same design. Okay, so the columns, like it's the same. Here's our ball socket. Here's our ball socket. This is a subtalar joint. There's a common misconception about subtalar joints that they are flexion and extension. It actually acts as a restricted ball socket. So you get a little bit of motion, of range of motion, so that can set. Your IT band's not a muscle, it's a tendon. It's like a bow.
Let's pull. It's amazing.
So if you're looking at my glutes,
Yep.
if I'm about to take off here, okay, it's like imagine somebody pulling. It's like bow. Now watch this. Release the corner. Boom. Bow. Release the corner.
So it's like a spiral. It's like almost like a swing from back and forth, right?
Run, walk, throw, swing, strike. That's what we do. Yep, it's a swing. There's swing mechanism. Yeah.
I mean,
shoulder, inside wrist bone high, turn the corner.
So like even like offensive linemen, when they're blocking, instead of them jamming their heel in the ground, what they should be doing is swinging their hips, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right. Which
Rick Stanzi has another like one of my favorite quotes when it comes to offensive linemen. He's like, you got one choice. You can pick one guy. Which cat you want? You want this cat? Or you want this guy?
Right.
And then everyone just starts laughing because it's like, what? Like, you're an offensive lineman. That is an alpha position. That's butt back. Like, we're going to war. I don't want to be here. I'm losing. So why am I going to take, this kind of an approach? Like,
right.
Look, what looks strong? What looks stronger? It doesn't make sense, right? When you look at it. But again, we'll honor film in every sport from the levels that want to be the best in the world honor film. But when you bring it into the weight room,
yeah, look at Tom Brady.
Bro, go back to that.
Yeah,
watch perfect. His shoulder. That's the corner right there. Bow, watch his wrist. His wrist bone stays high, and then it turns the corner.
That's amazing.
And his feet mimic that same motion. You'll see a bow set, and you'll see his heel release away. Now, what was funny about last Super Bowl is it was a tale between him and Patrick Mahomes, a 40-year-old, and like a dude that's in his prime, not taking anything away from Patty Mahomes because he's an amazing athlete, but who's had more surgeries? It's scary, man, when this type of training is creeping into the junior high level and you're getting junior highs, ACLs blowing out, and you're not willing to look at what changed. Why can't we make this kid rest and do his homework on the ground? Why does the answer have to be, he's got weak hips. We need to strengthen his weak hips. It's like, no, you're putting the wrong inputs into this kid's body and you're robbing his athletic potential. Like late crawlers almost always produce to the best movers and athletes as they get older. But we're here to say that's a problem. You've had kids, you know that there's a timeline for stuff, right? Talking. And it's like, leave the kid on the ground and let him refine his movement, him or her. Sorry, I'm a boy dad, and I have one girl. She's an amazing athlete herself. She's a dancer.
Right.
But you get what I'm saying. It's like,
yes,
that's going to translate to the top. And then it just gets robbed with the shoes that we wear because here's my I know we're getting a little over an hour, but
No, it's okay.
my analogy with shoes is simple. The way that they're made is like a very well made mattress, super comfortable. You can endure it, all this. If I made you 85% of your life lay in the most comfortable Tempur-Pedic mattress, you would literally be the sickest, most unwell person in the world. So if our feet are the structure that uphold everything and the arches have to have integrity, we're now killing it. And then and not only are we killing it, we're enforcing the flattening of it. And then we're pushing the toes together. So you can't put your foot in a bed 85% of the time and think it's going to be healthy. You don't really have foot control. You have scientific foot control because this is ankle control. It's not foot control. This is foot control. Building my arch. Watch my videos on TikTok, building the arch. It's not sliding. So the problem with that is man-made surfaces, wood floors, asphalt. And that's why there's companies. I shout Flux out because I believe they did it right, because there's other companies that just go straight barefoot. We're meant to walk on softer surfaces. So when you get man-made, you almost have to combat it with a man-made. So what Flux did is they've offered a barefoot feel and a natural feel on natural surfaces. So there is a little cushion, but there's no heel drop. So it's almost like you're sleeping on a thin pad,
right?
If you will. It's just protecting and it's evening the playing field. Right. It's like, okay, man-made surface. Here's a man-made natural thing.
Right. Exactly. That's interesting. Wow. This has been everything I thought it would be.
I want to say this in case some people listening, you go out and buy barefoot shoes, like you will hurt your feet. Like you have to take this slow. Even in movements with GOATA, you have to take this slow. It took you X amount of years to decode, to recode. It's going to take some time. It's not like, here's an 8-week program. Like in 8 weeks, you'll feel way better and you'll be out of pain. But it's not over. You're going to go back and do that. So please don't just go buy a barefoot shoe. Like you can DM me or any GOATA coach, but or just research it. Just there has to be some sort of padding for man-made surfaces, unless you're just literally never wore shoes and your feet are
already
Tarzan, then have at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. This has been amazing. Tell everybody where they can find you, to reach out to you. They want to train with you, if they want to know more about what you're doing.
So my website's being built. It's going to be lifestyleathleteperformance.com. For now, it's Lifestyle Athlete on TikTok, Backchain Billy on Instagram, or FortuneNat. You can hit her up too if you want a custom recode and a program to go along with it. That's our monthly subscription. It could start as low as $39.99.
Right.
And otherwise, if you need an in-person and you're in Arizona, hit us up and we can either do it ourselves or find you a good GOATA coach. And anywhere in the world, if you need an in-person GOATA coach, hit me up and I will help you find one. Everybody needs one. We want to save the world's connective tissue. Let's get it. Also, the last thing, if there's anybody with a business that want my boy Cody and I to come out there and evaluate how you work, change some things up, you can also hit me up at Backchain Billy on Instagram or Lifestyle Athlete on TikTok, or simply billywood09@gmail.com. Let's get it.
Billy,
I had a great time, dude. I enjoy it, man. I dig your energy.
Thank you. This was fantastic. I think as we start to clip it out and put it out, I'll get all this stuff over to you. This was fantastic, and people have to check out Coach Billy Wood, because this is going to change over time the way people train, and will obviously help them perform better, but most importantly, help them perform better without getting injured. That's what we want, longevity, right? To be able to perform at a high level as long as we can.
And life after sports,
you know?
We're all human, and we all have loves of our lives and passions that go beyond our careers.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Coach. It's been great having you on, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Shout out to GOATA Movement, and then hit any GOATA coach up. Just want to do that. We're here to save the world's connective tissue.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Later, coach.
Later.
Bye.